everybody, and welcome back to another week beyond the trailer park. Little bit on the wonky side this evening, but you know, that's how showbiz goes, especially when you're live. Unfortunately, our guest that we had scheduled for tonight was unavailable. So Jason decided to swoop in and save the day after he put down his guitar for a little while.
Yeah, it's hard. That's hard for me to do.
I know. So, I mean, welcome to the show, Jason. You've popped on before, but
oh yes, thank you. It's been a while. It's been a long time.
It has. So this is all right. And of course, joining us from the wilds of Pennsylvania. Good evening, Beth.
Good evening.
And over in the equally wild and backward Mississippi. Good evening, Morgan. And she's frozen.
Oh, there I am.
There she is. I'm like, I clicked on Morgan and everything went black. That's not good.
Happens.
Oh, well. So we don't really have a topic tonight, so we're just going to wing it. But I guess what I'm kind of has been on my mind since yesterday, and I don't know, Jason, if you've seen or heard anything about this, so my apologies if you're in the dark, but this was all over my page. On Friday in Toronto, 11-year-old Muslim girl claimed that she had been assaulted by a man who tried to cut her hijab off. And so there was this whole outcry of, you know, some assholes assaulting kid. And, you know, why, of course, there's a few Islamophobia people and all of that. But, you know, it was a horrible thing to have happened to a kid. They put the kid up on a news conference, and she was talking about how scared she was and all of this. And then it came out today that the whole thing was a lie, or didn't happen, is all the police are saying. So, yeah, I got into it, excuse me, with a couple of people on my page because I posted the story. Because my thing is, I can't stand hijabs. I think they're horrible. I think the whole idea behind them is disgusting. But a kid should not be terrorized in such a way. And no woman who's walking around with one of those on should be harassed because she's wearing it. So I posted the story, and I got into it with two or three people that were like, well, it's probably fake. And here's me going, well, no, because XYZ and whatever. So then, of course, I had to eat some crow this morning. Yay.
Well, I think in your defense, and pretty much any news that comes out of Canada compared to some of our news here in the U.S., it's kind of surprising to hear you say that it's been determined that it either didn't happen or is a hoax. So, which gets me to thinking is it really didn't happen, or is it really a hoax? What aspect of it is or is not a hoax? But it still doesn't, you know, take away from the story as far as whether wearing a hijab is kosher or not. But I think for me, it's like when you told me a little bit ago that it, you know, that it was didn't happen. I'm like, why the fuck are not just this young girl and her family think they need to go to such extremes to create even more Islamophobia or Christophobia or, you know, anti-LGBT hatred? I mean, I just don't get it. I mean, we have enough problems in our world that we don't need somebody creating even more havoc.
Yeah, and incidents like this have spiked across Canada. Like I was seeing where, like, you know, they have increased, and they have found, and it just makes me wonder why out of all of those victims, this little girl was put on the national TV and the camera and all that, because it's been happening all across the United States and Canada.
To girls or to everyone?
Well, to everybody across the board, but I
Well,
know specifically in my community, it's more directed towards women. I think because
so
there's a
maybe
girl.
that's why that was such an outrage because it happened to. I mean, I'm not trying to say that it's
Child,
like,
yeah.
yeah, maybe because it was a child that happened to.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
I wonder what's if it was fake. I mean, by the way, it's fine to eat it sometimes. I mean, we're all wrong, and it's nothing wrong with being wrong, as long as you admit it. But as far as the motive, like, why would they fake this? And do you think it had something to do with trying to gain sympathy towards?
Possibly. I'm not even sure. Like, and the news has been really kind of vague about everything. I was just looking now. Um,
Yeah, I was too. She gave a very detailed statement, though, which for me, I was telling Deb, I'm no expert, but I've listened to, tons and tons of, I'm a law student, so I've listened to confessions, depositions, the works. Usually, if somebody's lying, they're going to be very vague. And this girl had an account of the color of the scissors. She said it was an Asian man. And typically, if you're making that up, you'd be like, oh, it's a white guy because that's who is usually the perpetrators of these attacks.
Yeah, I
And
understand.
so
Yeah,
it was just, I think, so I was like, maybe something did happen, but she exaggerated, or maybe he just,
yeah, like
came up to her and said some smack, and then like she's like, oh, well, I'm going to say you cut my hijab. I don't know, but it seems weird that nothing happened.
so this is from the Toronto Star, which is the major newspaper, and it says it talks about people being relieved that it actually didn't happen because a lot of people were saying, well, hey, at least the kid wasn't terrorized, right?
Yeah.
Which, a lot of people are glad about that. And then it said, then it says there was triumph as evidenced by the gotcha gloating. Yep, victim of that myself. Who found an ideological victory in what could have been a child's lies. And it says, all this follows a bizarre twist in the Toronto story that made international headlines last Friday. An 11-year-old girl alleging a man ran up behind her when she was on her way to school with her little brother and cut her hijab. And it says, police who are investigating the allegations as possible hate crimes said Monday that this did not happen. Then it says there was so much detail at the Friday afternoon news conference. The man was alleged to have committed the crime was described as young, Asian, wore a hoodie, dressed in black, gloves were brown, scissors had a blue handle. He had a mustache. In itself is an uncommon sight, a mustachioed Asian with a hoodie. Yeah.
Maybe he was like a emperor.
Yeah, there we go. It says their mother was in tears. I don't know why he did that. This is just not Canada. Oh, everyone was lapping it up. It's not Canada adheres to the common narrative of discrimination being just a blip in the social fabric of rather than a daily reality for many Canadians, which is bullshit. But blah blah
Yeah,
blah.
because it is. It's happening to lots and lots of people, and it's just, and now they're using this as a way to say, oh, well, this means anybody else who ever says anything about being harassed, no matter if it's like a woman being harassed, or if it's a Muslim, or if it's, even a Middle Eastern person, or somebody
Well,
who looks like they could be Middle Eastern, they're going to say, oh, you're making it up because this little girl made it up one time,
no,
which
here's
is infuriating.
the part that so it says here, but on Monday when the police said the incident didn't happen, they say this is based on evidence from interviews and surveillance footage and that no charges were laid. Some Canadians showed just how thin that veneer is. Oh, says that the girl was a instant poster child of Islamophobia, blah blah blah. Da, da, da. It says there's people saying charge the kid with the maximum punishment, and
you can't do that though, because
no,
how do we know that the kid wasn't influenced by somebody?
well, that's just it. Like I think
Child.
she's still a victim, just a different.
Even if she came up with it on her own, she's a child and she can be rehabilitated.
Yeah, like what's the death penalty? It's acting like we're in
Especially here in the States, we have enough problems with people just going to jail with no rehabilitation. Like, you don't need any more of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
But there really isn't anything much giving any other detail about like the other story that I was reading just said that there would be no more action on it. But to me, that means that they've stopped looking for an assailant because they never found anybody. And this is the other thing, like in the past, I think when this sort of thing has happened, a specific person has often been accused, and that didn't happen here. Someone, they just
Asian man with a mustache.
So no one specifically was targeted, right?
no.
Yeah. So I mean, honestly, like in the eyes of the law, I guess. I mean, it's like you know, I don't know if it's the same thing really, but you can fake your own disappearance as long as you don't gain any money off of it or profit off of it in any way. You're not doing anything illegal as long as you're an adult. So I'm wondering if with something like this, you know, I'm wondering if it's one of those cases where as long as you're not accusing anybody in particular, if you just make the claim and there's no one to accuse, and then you say, "Oh, just kidding," I wonder, like, legally, if you can really do anything about it anyway.
You can, but it's like, because, well, this is at least what we have in the States. You can be like sanctioned, or I mean, it's not like you go to jail for 5 years or anything like that. But if you file a false police report,
Right.
but somebody has filed I had a stalker my senior year of college, and he filed a false police report against me out of retaliation.
Oh,
and
jeez.
the police, they didn't believe a word he said, and they were all, you know, when I came in there, they were like, "Yeah, real piece of work." So yeah, but I asked them about that, and they said, "Yeah, well, most of the time we just don't bother, because then what ends up happening is people are afraid that, you know, oh well, if we're doing false, you know, charges, maybe if like it turns out that their evidence is inconclusive, like if they don't have enough evidence to bring forward to the police initially, then they won't bring these things forward." Like maybe another little girl who gets attacked, you know, she'll be like, "Oh, well, that girl got in trouble, so maybe I shouldn't say anything." Also, it's very hard to prove that you were definitely making something up and lying to the police.
Yeah.
Well, and key in this story too is that it was the mother who reported it to the police.
Yeah, she didn't.
So the way the story went was that the guy attacked her on the way to school. She ended up getting to school with the children that she normally walks with. And then once she got to school, the child reported it to like a teacher or principal or whatever. And then they called the mother. The mother came to the school, and it was the mother that went and reported it to the police. So
That's a lot of chain. That's a big chain of police too.
Yeah. So if the mother, it could be shown, knew that this was fake, then she's going to be in big trouble.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like...
I think what's probably going to exonerate the mysterious attacker is the fact that they have video. And by the sounds of it, the video probably didn't show
what was
the
claimed.
exact person. Yeah, what was claimed, and, you know... But and the mother wouldn't have known that when she filed her report. Because you don't know what buildings have cameras and what don't, which buildings don't. I mean, I always have to remind everybody at work that, you know, you are on camera, people. You might not realize it, but yeah, you are.
Man, I live my life every day like there's a camera on me. It's not like I would do anything bad anyway, but with that constant, it's not a paranoia thing either. I'm not like afraid of anybody, but if I go anywhere, I always pretend somebody's watching me, so I better, you know, that's why I don't do anything bad. Well, I mean, I do, but you get the drift. You get the drift.
You're not going to run around purse snatching.
Yeah.
To do so.
Like that kind of mindset's effective for me because I wouldn't snatch purses anyway. But if I was ever tempted to snatch a purse, because I'm a human being and we all get tempted by dumb things, like there's that's the one thing, because I listen to too much true crime to be naive to the fact that there's probably somebody watching you. In fact, I think there are drones in our neighborhood. According to our neighbors, there's drones that somebody's flying around looking in people's yards. So it's like, you never know.
Well, it's like we put video cameras on our front porch this summer because we've been having problems. Well, people stealing stuff, but I had some weirdo just decide he was going to wait to get picked up from his friend on our front porch sofa.
Nope.
At 3:30 in the morning. So yeah, that was a
Let me tell you. No, go ahead. Keep going. Let me cut you off.
And people would never know unless they came. Like, we put a big sign on our front doors, like "Smile for the camera" kind of thing. But you wouldn't know the way the camera on our front porch is. We can see straight through our neighbor's front porch and their neighbor's front porch. So you can't get a lot of detail on like the second house over, but you still see that there was a person that went in the front door, and you could kind of you might even be able to guess, or something like that. My next door neighbor, you could totally see when she goes in and out of her house and anything that happens on her balcony or her front porch, which actually she's happy about because she's had people snooping around on her front porch too. So,
I got a story when you're done.
yeah, I was just going to say that you just never know. Like, somebody going to the house 2 doors down would never realize that they're actually on camera being recorded at our house.
Right.
And that's why cops ask for any video footage of surrounding buildings, because you don't know what's caught and what's not.
Yep. So what's your story, Jason?
All right, so I'm not one of those crazy people, but I am an artist, and I do have a very creative and imaginative mind, right? So, one of my favorite podcasts I used to listen to was Welcome to Night Vale, so you can imagine the scenarios that play out. So my neighborhood, besides the drones, there's always weird shit going on. Like, the other day, I was playing Grand Theft Auto, and it was like 3 a.m. I heard this loud, like, almost huge jet in the sky sound that lasted for like 45 minutes. And I finally got to the point where I walked out the front door, and I couldn't see anything, but I could hear it. But even weirder than that, this was like around September, I think. Rachel and I were in the backyard, and it was like 3, 4 in the morning. And our backyard and our neighbor's backyard, it's connected by an alleyway. So our garages, all face the alleyway. And so when I'm in the backyard, it's fenced in, but I can still see into the alleyway. I can see my neighbors' yards and stuff like that. And we're talking, and all of a sudden, we see this car backing up with another car in front of it, like pushing it. Oh. And I thought, this is fucking bizarre. Because there was no noise, really. It was just these 2 headlights, right? And finally, one of the cars screeches to a halt, and this other car backs up, like, screeches into the neighbor's driveway. Then we hear the screaming. Then one car disappears, and so I'm like, my dumbass decides to run to the gate to go out into the alleyway to see what's happening. Rachel's smart ass decides to run inside the house to protect herself. Yeah. And then she freaked out because I didn't know this, but when I went to open the gate, after those 2 cars left, another car without headlights drove by the alley, and I didn't see it. And so we call the cops, and he comes, or no, right before he comes by, I'm outside. I'm still scoping the area out, and this girl just strolls through the alley on her cell phone, and I'm like, "Hey, are you okay?" And she doesn't acknowledge me. She doesn't look at me, and you could see. I mean, you could probably see me if you looked in my yard, and all I think is that she maybe had headphones on or something like that, because I said, 2 or 3 times, "Hey, are you okay? Do you need help?" And then she disappears. She just completely disappears out of my sight.
Black-eyed child.
Not like disappeared, like vanished in thin air, but like she walked into the shadows and I didn't see her again. And then finally the cops come, and I tell him, "Hey, there's some weird shit going on, whatever." And so we see him once go down the alley, but for the rest of the night until the morning, this one car would drive by our house, no headlights, and it would have like its, this back bike rack, and it drove by our house like 3 times an hour, and it would stop. And man, it was a pretty interesting. Yeah.
That's weird. And maybe it was a stakeout or something.
Well, no car came in, so we didn't know where that car came from. The only thing I could think of is maybe the neighbors were fighting, because we do have a few neighbors down the, 5 or 6 houses down that maybe would come off as a little too rambunctious, I guess. And
right.
you know, maybe they had a dispute, but that's all I could think about because no car came in. So what the fuck? So yeah, there's a lot of that, and the drone neighborhood gets pretty scary.
Aliens.
Yeah.
I know
Well,
when I was
you're in Texas, so you're a little ways from Roswell, but maybe they fly over. I don't know.
Man, did I ever tell you that story about when I saw a UFO?
No, I don't think so.
I'm sure I have. I'm sure it was in a video that I made, and I'm sure. Anyway, so stop me if I've told this, but when I was a young lad, I told myself, hey, if I ever see a UFO, that will be the day that I first say my first cuss word, because if I see a UFO, that means the world's fucking ending, and me saying a cuss word won't make my dad hit me, and, which he never did, by the way. But so we took a train from like Pensacola to New Hampshire to see my grandfather for like his 750th birthday or something like that, and we're waiting outside to, you know, like we're sneaking around the house to surprise him. We get to his house, and I turn around and I look up in the sky, and I saw a UFO. And I said, holy shit. And my dad comes running over me, fucking pops me in the head. He's like, don't you cuss. I'm like, Dad, I saw a UFO. He turns around, he looks back at me, and he turns around again. He says, that's the moon. And I looked, and I finally realized that I don't know what happened in my brain at that age that made my brain think UFO. Maybe it was the fog, but yeah. I'm still not that bright, by the way. So
probably said that.
So ladies, you can keep your boyfriends.
Probably said that was the lamest excuse for swearing I ever heard.
Oh yeah, I legit thought I saw one.
Well, I know when I was still doing paranormal stuff, I had on I'll say medium popular conspiracy theorist on my show.
Wait, were you doing the show? Were you doing like debunking, or were you a paranormal?
No, I got into the paranormal. Long story,
but a believer.
To what?
I fell for.
What? Oh no, I thought someone said something.
Oh, I fell for the woo at a very low point in my life. I was seeking answers, and it seemed to have the answers. So even though I still had a lot of skepticism, I still fell for the shit. And thankfully, I got the shit knocked out of my head. So, but yeah, it's as dangerous. It's as indoctrinating as religion. It's dangerous.
Don't feel bad. At one point in my life, I was a hardcore Michael Savage loving Republican who was a born again Christian who converted to a Catholic, and I believed almost all the conspiracy theories. So we've all had our bad past.
Oh, I know quite a few atheists that are into paranormal and 9/11 truthing and all that stuff. So it's not unusual.
Hey, people need something to talk about. I don't fault anybody for what they like to think about.
The guy I was arguing with on my page last night, I was getting messages, or Saturday night, I guess it was. I was getting messages from another, because he's from like a couple towns over.
Yeah.
Getting messages from somebody else in that group going, he's a conspiracy nut and he likes Trump. And I was like, oh, fuck. Because I had met the guy. I've met the guy before. And he's an anti-vaxxer because his son is autistic, and he's convinced that that's how that happened. So,
oh boy, but yeah, I had this conspiracy nut on, and I've watched this gentleman for quite a few years. He's gone from a fairly normal to fairly wackadoodle, but so I mean, and he was talking in our interview about being his phone calls are recorded in drones, and he's followed by the yada yada yada, the whole 9 yards. Well, the next day I was still in bed, and all of a sudden I start hearing helicopters. Now, I don't live in the city. I'm out literally in the boonies. I'm 30 minutes from the nearest what I would call town. They call it city, but so hearing helicopters is kind of unusual. well, except for Life Flight. So I'm like hearing these military style helicopters, and I'm like, why am I hearing helicopters? Holy shit! You know, my mind immediately goes, oh, I had, you know, PK on last night. Maybe he was telling the truth, you know. Well, it turned out they were searching for somebody who had kidnapped one of our bank tellers at one of our local banks.
Holy shit!
And yeah, that was comforting.
That's scarier than aliens.
I knew the guy and I knew the bank teller, so I mean, it's like, but my mind immediately switched to the crazy aspect of, oh my god, maybe PK was telling the truth, you know. And it's like, yeah,
you know,
your mind will do really weird tricks, you know, with situations like that.
You know what I hate about my personality is that I become very dismissive whenever somebody approaches me with literally any idea when they approach it with a sort of Alex Jones rhetoric. And,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yes.
And like I've lost a few friends over the last year, and I'm usually, I mean, I try to be pretty drama free when it comes to most things, but sometimes I'll write something and people will misunderstand the context and then just fucking
like the guy that unfriended you because you said you liked Dr. Phil.
Yeah, that was a screenwriter for the guy that wrote the screenplay for Robin Hood Men in Tights. I thought he was cool up to that point. Yeah, it's long. Yeah, I work from home, so I don't do much during the day but smoke and play music, and so it's a decent gig. And sometimes Dr. Phil's on, and it's entertaining. And I'm usually high, and I'm usually like into Dr. Phil when I'm high because it's just entertaining as fuck. And so it's entertainment to me. I'm not going to take it and start typing on Facebook, Dr. Phil advice. It's, I don't care that much about him. But he seemed to just go a different direction with it. Like he had the mindset. I'll paraphrase my buddy Jay when he said regarding the subject, "This ends today." Like that's how this guy came into this. Like, you will not listen to Dr. Phil. And then and then he bashed on my buddy and made fun of him for not being as successful as him. It was don't mind the rabid dogs I keep over in the living room.
Yeah, that's okay.
That'll go down. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the only one I could possibly believe in is maybe there's like UFOs because of the whole like Pentagon department, and like I've seen Navy pilots been like, yeah, I've seen some weird shit. So I think there's weird shit flying around. If it's aliens, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. It's for me the way I approach this, and it's taken a long time for me to figure out how to formulate this thought when it comes to aliens and things like that. When it comes to certain things, not all things, when it comes to certain things, in this case aliens, I don't care if I know or don't know about it. You know what I mean? So So if people were to ask me, what do you think? It's like, I don't care. Like I can't tell you if they do or don't. I'm that agnostic about it. And so I can understand that the government probably makes weird things, but I just can't really care about the alien. I like the idea as a story, as a fiction, but in our version of reality, it's kind of a boring thing. But going back to what I said with the whole Alex Jones thing, I even had another friend, and I won't name her name, but she's pretty prominent. She was on the talk show with Rachel and all that stuff, but. She got really upset by something that I said, but I think she took my position out of context because I posted it, but I didn't seem to back what I posted. I didn't add any context, and I didn't defend her either whenever she would say things that were sort of crazy. And I agreed with her the whole time. I think most people did. It was just the way she was coming across. And then, she bailed on me. So, I've just learned in my life that I've flushed out a lot of people, or people have flushed me out because I don't care about that rhetoric. You could talk to me about anything if you're calm and collected about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. As Alex Jones would say, it's not human intelligence. But in a crazier tone of voice.
Yeah.
My throat would blow out.
I mean,
there's nothing wrong with having an interest or being entertained by it. I mean, I have friends that are entertained by ancient aliens.
Look, I listen to the Art Bell show on a constant basis.
Yeah, I used to listen to that all the time. Even when I deconverted and stuff. But it was more because on late at night. I was awake and it was something to listen to. But I did, as I said, I did get into that phase for a while, but then I got out of it. But what pulled me out of it is, I'll use Ancient Aliens as an example, and I've mentioned this before because it ties in with the Nephilim, is when you believe something that is improbability, and you make it into almost a religious dogma, and your dogma dictates your actions and what you believe and stuff. Like, there's people who accept that the Genesis 6 giants existed. Okay, yes, the average height back then was about 5'5" to 5'8", so anybody that was a giant of let's say 6, 8, 7 foot would be considered enormous. But then you have people that say, well, no, their giants were 12 feet, 32 feet tall, and there's skeletons of such. Well, scientifically, based on the way Earth is as an atmosphere and yada, 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 it's physically impossible. Especially the skeletons that they post as proof, because it's called the square cube law. And as you get bigger, your bones have to compensate, and they aren't going to look like a normal human skeleton.
Right.
So it's just like, but they go a step farther, like with the Ancient Aliens, and the doctrine that the Ancient Aliens is based on is also the basis for the Christian identity movement, aka the KKK, David Duke, and that rat crap.
You know what?
It can become very dangerous, but having a healthy, like for you, Jason, watching Dr. Phil just because it's on, you enjoy it, okay, but you don't live by it.
Here's the thing. It's like when I became an atheist, I also made the decision never to let go of my artistic fantasy side, And there's a lot of things. I mean, anybody that likes sex, that has sexual kinks, knows that there are certain things that they think about that, they'd probably be in real life would be like, nah, I ain't gonna do that, whatever, And so my point with all that is, I like to sometimes live in the fantasy of aliens, of this crazy world that we've all created, because a lot of the stuff that we think exists is things that we created, right? And so I like to pretend, but I'll never sit there and tell anybody I believe any of that shit. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just genuinely like, I hate the Ancient Aliens crap and all that stuff, and because usually it's done by people who have that Alex Jones ranty thing, and they're like, no, they exist, and blah blah blah. But it's just like, for me, I'm like, maybe there is, maybe there isn't. It's curious and it's fun to talk about, but I'm not.
That's what I'm saying is I'll never get to the point. Again, sorry about the rabid dogs. I'll never get to the point where I'll say maybe there is, maybe there isn't. Because I'm a pretty what's that word? I put my foot down with a lot of things like that. Like, I won't accept a lot of things, but I will entertain the idea. But again, if I'm having that conversation with somebody, they have to be chill as fuck, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to follow them. Because I don't want to be convinced by anything. I like the. Huh?
If your face is purple, you're ripping your shirt off and pounding your chest, you might have an issue.
Wait. What, right now or what?
No, like Alex Jones does.
Oh God, yeah. I was like,
it turns every shade of the rainbow and screams.
Once I looked at myself in the hangout window, I was like, I do look purple. Oh, shit.
Joining us is Alex Jones.
Yeah, right. Oh man.
Have you guys seen Colbert does a rather amusing spoof on Alex Jones?
No, I want to see that though.
It's quite funny. I forget what the hell he calls it. He gives the guy like a total different name. Like, it doesn't even sound.
I've heard of it. Yeah, because Alex Jones then went on a rant about it.
Yes.
I need to check that out.
Tuck Buckford.
Yes. Oh my God.
Tuck Buckford. Yes.
You know what else has been doing really good as far as like parodying a lot of this bullshit that we see is Saturday Night Live. Like last season was really, really well done, and this season looks pretty good too. But yeah, those political jokes, they don't ever get old.
Tuck Buckford does brain fight.
Oh Jesus Christ!
Brain fight.
Yeah, after that one episode you sent me, Dub, it was right after that Jones did a rant about
I didn't see
a
Jones
rant about it, and he was just like all bent out of shape that Colbert would even have the audacity. You know, it's like, seriously, dude.
You guys, you know what I honestly think about Alex Jones is I think he is make pretend. I don't believe he is real. And the reason why I say that, I mean, one of them is nobody is ever that angry all the fucking time. Secondly, nobody, unless you're certified, is that batshit crazy. And also too, like if I hate to sound like a sellout here, but if I could successfully do what he did and make money off of it, I wouldn't mind making a few dollars, right? It's because to me it's entertainment, and that's how I view him. Unfortunately, the problem is and where I would draw the line as an actual person, and why I would show my true colors is people believe him, and that's the problem I have with him. I can watch him and be entertained by him, but I can't be okay with the fact that people latch on his shit and go crazy.
And then he portrays himself as serious, not as a performer, not as somebody mocking, you know, these conspiracy nuts and things like that. He's holding himself out as, oh, I'm being serious.
But there's a reason why he made. There's a reason. There.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jason.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say there's a reason why he's made all this money off of doing what he did, and why the things that I did, and not that I'm saying I'm like brilliant at what I did with the YouTube channel, but the parody I did, why I didn't make that much money, because people buy the serious, the scaredness. People just laugh at the satire. People buy into the and believe and give money to what they think is serious, I think.
Well, part of Jones's stick is he makes no money off his show. His money that he makes is all in his diet supplements.
I mean, that I can accept, but I think he makes money off his show too.
Well, he makes some, but there's actually, I think Politico did an article last year, maybe the year before, where they break down his income per se and how much he makes. I mean, yeah, he makes money on his show, but not nearly as much as he makes hawking the diet supplements. He was hawking Gold Vortex or something. I can't remember the name of it. But going to whether if he believes what he touts is, I think initially he was where you were saying. In fact, if I remember correctly, I think David Pacman did an interview with him where he actually says that, you know, he's an okay guy, but I think what's happened is that the crazy has taken over. He's gotten to the point where even he's starting to believe his garbage, and he's influential now. I mean, the president now he has that influence. And people he's got the president of the United States
it's
listening to him.
It's hard. I understand.
So I think there's that mix of, yeah, he has to play the role to make money, but I think that role is starting to take over. Then this is what I've seen with my one friend who I was talking about before, is that when he got into this, he was quite normal. I mean, he was just like us, but then I
remember watching him a few years after 9/11 when I was into all that conspiracy theory stuff, and he was still pretty. I mean, he was more convincing back then because he wasn't as crazy, but it was up there. It riled me up, and But the thing is, though, and I guess I have to accept what you say based on, I can't look at him like what I would do in a situation. Like, I know that I could write an act parody and never believe it. I know, like, I feel like I could do what he did and never truly believe it. But that's me. I mean, I don't know what his brain is like. You know, maybe in his brain.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
He's trying to trick people into believing it. His intention isn't to make people laugh.
Yeah.
Like for instance, the original Colbert, right? Everybody knew that was a parody.
Yeah.
It was so obvious. I mean, he made jokes about it himself, but could you imagine if that aired, say, 20 years ago and Shrub Jr. latched onto that and was like, oh, he's my man and I believe him. And like, that's kind of thing that's happening now.
But I don't think that happened because Colbert would be like, dude, you're an idiot. It's obviously a parody. And Alex Jones, who was like, yes, let me tell you about all this conspiracy. Meanwhile, Trump actually has like the world's best intelligence, that he could be reading.
But those guys aren't trustworthy, don't you know?
Yeah. I fucking wouldn't trust him with classified information either. He'll tweet it out.
Yeah. It's like, hey man, look at this document I just got. Snap, and yeah.
I think with somebody like Alex Jones, there's a very, very fine line. Now, I've been following him since he broke the Bilderberg story back in the 90s. Don't ask.
No, I get you. Trust me, I get it.
And there's times I get into some of his stuff, and I've even said this to Deb. I think I'm losing my mind. Like, part of the reason I got out of my research of the Nephilim was the crazy was so thick and heavy, it was actually beginning to affect me. Not that I was believing things, but the mindset was beginning to seep in. Now, I already have mental health issues, okay? I readily admit that. So I have to be careful because if I get too manic, I will get psychotic. I will become delusional. Now, I've been stable for 10 years now, but with somebody with Jones, there's that fine line, and you got to know when to back off, and I think what he's done, in my personal opinion, is he's never backed off, and he's just getting in deeper and deeper. And I've seen that with my friend PK. He's literally gone off the deep end. I mean, in my opinion, I think there's other issues involved, but it's really tough when you start getting into it.
So I'm gonna lose this thought if I don't cut you off. So I humbly apologize. I don't. No, I'm not that person. But the thing is, with me, I got past where you stopped. I got past that point a little bit because I was crazy for a long time. I remember one time driving home, I learned something new, and I was so angry. I was at my parents' house. They were both watching me as I'm just shouting about how fucked up this world is and everything and blah, blah, blah. And I went through this very angry period for a long time where I thought, at some point in my life, I feel like the police are going to surround my house. I'm going to have a shootout with them because they're going to blah, blah, blah. Even though I don't own a gun, even though in my brain, I just thought, I was so paranoid. And slowly, like, when I started looking at, like, especially with 9/11, it was kind of like religion for me. It was like, there are 20 plus different 9/11 conspiracies. And I thought, that's a lot. I spent a long time figuring out what the hell we're trying to tell me. None of them told me anything really, except for there are just that many different conspiracy theories about 9/11. Then I started to look at all, I laid it out and I thought, there is no fucking way that every single one of these are happening right now. There's no fucking way that all these conspiracies, maybe one or two, maybe there's some shit going on with the government. I know it's not perfect. There's always something going on that's not good, right? But they can't all be true. And I got to a point. It was like the first stage of my hippie-bound life where I'm at now, right? I got to the point where I thought, do I really fucking care? Has any of this affected me for the last couple of years? Like, no. I still go to work 5 days a week. I still fucking pay bills. I still hate cops, and I'm just kidding about that. I still, I still am just angry. I write music. I do my dumb shit. I eat my chili out of the can. Like, nothing has changed. And then I just realized I don't care. And that's why I say I can have these conversations with calm people, but I can't be part of that crazy, insane huffing and puffing. I'm angry at everything. No way, man. and also with all it's like with religion, there's so many different types of ways to worship so many types of gods. Like, at some point, you know, one of them is true and the rest aren't, or none of them are true at all. And that's how it became with conspiracy theories for me. It's like, you know, either they're all true or maybe only some of them are true. And I just stuck with the some of them may be true.
I don't understand how anybody can live with that amount of paranoia in their life. That's what gets me. Like, I've talked to conspiracy people and they're just like, everything is against them. And I just don't understand, like, how you can go through life thinking that way.
Well, it's easy to, like, it's easy for someone, especially like me, to have a general distrust of people in society, especially with what we've all been exposed to with shootings and just people being bad human beings. Like, I do have a natural tendency when I go out to just kind of keep my head down. It doesn't stop me from holding doors open for people or giving bums change if they need some money. Like, I still go out of my way to try to be nice to people, but I distrust people. But I'm fine with that. I can handle that because it's an underlying thing. It's not something that I focus on. I agree with you. How the fuck can you wake up every day? It's a nightmare. Like, I've kind of lived that, and I don't like that. It's a shitty feeling. It's like, fucking just enjoy life because you're gonna die soon, or someday you're gonna die.
Also, here's the thing for me. No one can keep their fucking mouth shut. So how are all the conspiracies true? Because no one can keep their mouth shut for longer than 5 minutes. They would immediately go tell everybody. And then it's just like, also, I've always asked, why? Who would benefit? And then they're like,
I've asked that 100 times too.
Well, here's the thing.
I what's the end game? What's the goal of doing this? Well,
see, right now, currently, the best example of the what's the end game question is the flat Earth hypothesis, I guess, or it's not a theory, but that's the best example, in my opinion, at least, because
say it's Satan trying to fool you into not believing God or something.
I don't even know if that's the motive. Like, I don't think anybody knows what the true motive of it. But the reason why I think that's the best example of it. Is because it's also the best example of people who think, I guess, that they don't have any control over their lives, so they have to have some sort of control. And that control is knowing something that nobody else knows or has access to or is unaware of. And so with most conspiracy theories, especially ones that have little to no evidence, yeah, you know, and again, especially the flat Earth, because there's no motive behind it. It's all about people feeling like they know more than somebody else, and I get that, but fuck.
It goes back to that need to be extra special. Like, it's very, very much like religious thinking.
Yeah,
I know the right God, so I'm more special and I'm smarter or whatever. And it's the same kind of thing. Well, I've figured out something that all you people are too stupid.
You sheeple.
Well, that's exactly the thing. It's the rhetoric that comes out of their mouth. It isn't conversational. It's trying to convince you. And again, when you, most of the time, I think when you I lost my train of fucking thought. I have no idea what just happened right there.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that does that.
Oh my God, it just completely, like there was a brick wall that just went up. It completely just cut off my words. But I think, hopefully you know where I was going, whatever the fuck I was just.
Yeah, we were talking about that mentality of needing to be special and know something that everybody else doesn't know and all of that crap. And I'm just like, okay, so why are you so special then? What makes
well, it's not like I don't know if it's that they think they're special, because I know when I was into that, it wasn't that I thought I was special. It's that I wanted to correct everybody around me that was wrong, I think. So it wasn't really a narcissistic, like, I know more than you. So maybe it's a combination of what I said and that, because for me it was more of like wanting to educate people, and I think that's what I was trying to say before, is with the tone that a lot of these people have, it isn't conversational. It's trying to convince you. It's trying to tell you that, hey.
And that's where it becomes dangerous, because you get one, then you get two, and then you get more. Like my friend PK, I watched when I first interviewed him. We're talking good 7 years ago, and from the first interview to the second interview, He went from having 5 followers on Facebook who agreed with him, myself not included. I followed him just to see where he was going. I still follow him. He now currently, and it's been about 8-9 years, over 500 followers. Okay, and I don't mean people, just people like me. I'm going to say sheeple. I mean, I watch his posts, and this is not just for PK. This is like even with Alex Jones. His follower count has gone through the roof. I mean, Chuck Missler's another one. Thomas Horn, L.A. Marzulli. These are all Nephilim proponents and alien deception and all that stuff. I mean, I've watched them go from absolutely nothing to thousands and thousands of followers. And it's like really, it's kind of scary because it falls into that, this is just like religion. And that's what snapped me out of it, or began to. Also running into Dave Foda helped too. I met Foda on God Discussion, which was how we got connected. Yeah. But it was at the right time, even though I considered myself an atheist at the time, running into somebody that could get me back into rational thinking, because my thinking was all twisted, and this is, this is what people, like PK, like Jones, to some degree, rely on, getting your thinking processes all twisted around. And the problem is, I ran into PK, I ran into Jones, I ran into all these other proponents of various aspects within the Nephilim realm. They all, like, I have 60 that I follow, and I still do follow, within Nephilim, the Nephilim proponents. There's at least 13 different theories, for lack of a better word, as to what these alleged creatures are, and it's like none of them agree.
Yeah.
Just like you can, like you're saying, you laid out all the different 9/11 conspiracies, and they were all different.
Well, also too, when it comes to followers, and I hate admitting this about myself, and I think I've talked about this before, but there was a time in my life where and keep in mind, I was in a private school from like 5th grade to about halfway through 10th grade. So I didn't have and also younger, when I was younger than that, I moved around schools. When I was older than that, again, moved around a lot. And so my education was unstable. On top of the unstable education, we're not taught how to think anymore. We're not taught how to be critical of information that we're given. And so for someone like me, it was easy for me to accept a religion. It was easy for me to accept dumb ideas. At one point, I thought, just because it made sense, that the reason, or how the flood happened was a big comet came by the Earth and pulled the weak parts of the core up into mountains and then dumped all its water on it and blah, blah, blah. And to me, that made sense. I was like, yep. Makes sense to me. I didn't care to do any research because it already fit in line with the general belief system that I had. And so with a lot of these followers, it's easy when you're not taught how to be a critical thinker. It's easy to hear something that makes sense and accept it, because things that make sense to us in short spoonfuls, things that we can just bite real quick and then, whatever. That's what we'll latch onto. I don't know if we're not wired or if we're just lazy, but we just don't want to put the time and the effort into understanding something or break it, or we don't want to put the effort into breaking it apart anymore. And so I understand the follower mentality, because I had that. I believed in dumb shit because it made sense in a short amount of time. And that's a sad thing. And that's sad for other people too.
And I don't even remember a time at all in school where I was ever even encouraged to question anything. It was, I'm an adult, I'm your teacher, this is the facts, this is what you get, you believe this and you regurgitate it back. That was like
ran into when I took my apologetics class that I got thrown out of, because I was always taught from pretty much day one, the Bible is so easy a 5-year-old could understand it. Then I took missionary classes, and that was the premise behind missionary work, that you hand out the Bible, they'll be able to read it in their own language at the time, and they'll be able to understand it. Then what the fuck do we need apologetics for? And I asked that question in class, but going to being spoon-fed ideas and just following people that got... I'm in a Kent Hovind group, and one of the questions I asked recently, what are your beliefs concerning? I forgot exactly what I had asked. And, well, you're in a Kent Hovind group. What do you think? I'm like, no, I want your beliefs. I don't want Kent Hovind's. I know what his are, and his are wrong. What are yours? So basically, you're following somebody they don't even understand what he's saying. But going back, the flood triggered. I'm working on a series that I'm going to do. I'm just kind of picking at it now, and I'm starting with Genesis. And within the realm of Christianity, you have some that believe in the gap theory, which is between Genesis 1:1 and Genesis 1:2. Some that don't. But who's right? I mean, there's whole theologies based on that, and they can't even agree.
Right. Well, it's funny because I was watching on Facebook today this, somebody says it was Dawkins versus this quote unquote stupid creationist, which I don't, I think the term should be naive, somebody who isn't educated, but basically this guy asked, if you haven't seen the video, asked Dawkins about the eye, and it's so perfect. And Dawkins explained to him the evolution of the eyeball. And then the guy tried to switch subjects, and he tried to talk about, well, if the world, if we've been around for at least 1 billion years, when did we peak? And Dawkins was like, what in the fuck are you talking about, dude? And then, he went back, and finally Dawkins was able to explain to him that, we can look at transitional forms even today. There's certain worms where their eyeballs are only in a cup shape. They're, and he went on and talked about how we know that there are transitions because we've seen them and we still see them today. And, to someone like me, even though I live with somebody who's an evolution expert, I admit that I ain't the brightest. There's a lot of things that take a while for me to process, but I get the basic concept. And this guy decided to respond with, well, the Bible. This is what the Bible says, and this is Genesis. And it's like, oh, no. What he said was, no, this is exactly what he said. He goes, I'm sorry, the whole time you were talking, I kept thinking about the Bible and what the Bible says about this. And I thought, you're not fucking listening. You just told everybody that you're not fucking listening to this guy. You need to listen first, then process the information, and then think about what you're about to say.
You want to take the information that you've been given and process it alongside what you think is in the Bible or whatever. Okay, fine. It's not going to help you, but whatever. But if you're just going to sit there like, oh, I'm sorry, I tuned out, was, singing show tunes in my head while you were talking, it's just the same.
Right.
It's ignorant and very disrespectful.
But again, I have to be sympathetic because even when I was a Christian, even when I was a Catholic and I was debating Christians, like, I do know the mindset of when you look. I don't say this as a bad. It is a bad thing, but I'm not trying to say it as a slight. But to be religious, you have to be sort of narcissistic, and you have to be sort of so convinced that you're right and nobody else is besides you, to be able to just approach people and to be able to tell them, lost my train of thought again. Fuck, I'm so sorry. This time it was a fucking vacuum that we have. We have a new Roomba and it starts bumping into things and I have to stop and think and listen to it and go, is it doing anything bad? And then that's where my brain froze again. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Horrible.
But I think building on what you're saying, I think that's why, like, the Ham Nye debate, basically, Bill Nye laid out a pretty good case, but the entire debate came down to, I have a book.
Yeah.
And I've actually witnessed in this one group, well, we had Bill Ludlow on the show not too long ago, and he's in the same group. I've watched Bill lay out the evidences in areas that I'm not even remotely familiar with. I mean, I know enough that I'd get myself buried, because I'd have to look every little nuance, but there's some areas I do okay in. But Bill was laying out like all these transitional fossils, and while I have a basic understanding, it was very easy to follow. And basically, after this long ass spiel, I think it went into like 3 days. And Deb and I have been in debates that long, and it's like, you lay all this information out, you type it out. I'm hoping Bill has it pre-typed. I mean, and not just Bill. I've seen a couple other members that are evolutionists lay the same information out, and basically it comes down to, I have this book. Well, like going back to the eye thing, this was one of the conversations we had.
Can I say something real quick? I just want to say, my thought was that's the narcissism, is to be able to have a conversation with somebody, and when your response is, oh, the whole time I was thinking about this, that to me is a very it's not a polite thing to do in a conversation. It's unfair. You know, you want to listen to other people. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But yeah, I mean, so we're going through the whole eye and the guy, and that basically it was, well, I don't understand why any of that's even important as he's wearing glasses. So I just nonchalantly just typed in, so why did you go to the doctor for your glasses if you don't believe in the evolution of the eye? Because it's correcting a fault that's in the human eye that evolution didn't fix.
Our eyes aren't even that great.
Oh, we have perfect eyes. It's like, you might want to look at the octopus. I might have that wrong. But it's like, they're like, we were created perfect. It's like, why the fuck are you wearing fucking glasses, dude?
Well, I think
if we're perfect, you don't need them.
Well, like I said, even Dawkins was talking about, I think it was a hookworm or something. There's some worm where its eyes is like the beginning stages of what, you know, how we evolved. It's a cup shape. And that's,
it's just bizarre that, I mean, and it's not just religion, but it's, you know, the paranormal stuff, the ancient knowledge stuff. I mean, it's all become that, like Deb was saying, that religious mindset. It's really kind of, I don't know, fascinating in a scary sort of way.
This is the way I look at it. Whenever I play a video game, I really get into the process of the story. Like Grand Theft Auto, I'm driving around, I'm doing all these side quest missions, I'm learning, I feel like I'm on top of the world, I'm God in this game. Like I'm figuring it out. Eventually, I beat the game, I'm just bored because I have nothing to do. That's kind of how it was with conspiracy theories and religion for me, is I got to the point where I was learning all this new stuff. It was very exciting to me. I was learning shit that nobody else knew, that nobody else was experiencing besides myself, even though that's not true because other people do experience that, just like other people experience video games on their own terms. But in your world, that's your thing. And some people eventually get bored with playing the game like I do, and they just give up and don't care anymore, and they just start smoking weed and enjoying life. And other people are the people that just start playing it online, and they keep playing it and keep playing it. You know, so that's where you have, and so for me, it's hard because I'm very sympathetic. I don't hate conspiracy theories. I do kind of joke about them, and I do kind of make fun of them, but I get it because I was there and I understand that new feeling. It's just sad because people have to take it and make it a part of reality when it really isn't.
Yeah, no, for sure. And some people have, you know, personal motivations. I mean, look at the anti-vaxxers. The guy, like he's, you know, the other person was like, yeah, his kid is autistic, and he's convinced that the problem started immediately after getting a vaccination. So he's made that connection in his personal experience and just won't waver from it because he's convinced that that's what happened. And he thinks he's got, quote, proof because, well, my child was perfectly normal until he got vaccinated and now he's autistic.
Oh, I swear I saw a UFO once. I swear to God I saw a UFO once.
But it was made of blue cheese, right?
Yeah. Man. Like I said, I love the fantasy world. I love imagining fun things, except for vampires because they're fucking boring as fuck. But besides that, it's I love it. I love it, but I also love.
But you know it's
Absolutely,
fantasy.
yeah.
You know it's make believe.
Well, and it's like the fact that you enjoy Dr. Phil, but you know the guy is largely a quack.
Yeah, exactly. Like I would love to see movies.
I enjoy watching Dr. Phil on occasion. There are times where I'm like, not this again.
Okay, here's a case in point for you, Deb. You like that court
I love Judge Judy.
Yeah, she's fun.
She was a legitimate judge, but you know it's entertainment. You know what presented on the show is entertainment.
And there are times
but I know people that actually have cited, and Morgan, you might be this, have actually cited Judge Judy and in their briefs for court.
No, I have not seen that.
Oh,
that's
honey,
delightful.
Oh yeah, there's 2 other shows that have been mentioned too, and I can't.
Is it People's Court, Divorce Court?
Yeah, People's Court. The one with I can't think of it. But yeah, they've actually been cited in briefs presented before the courts. I'd have to dig out the cases. I have them buried somewhere.
That's why you never represent yourself ever. I wouldn't.
And that's why they were doing it, because they thought it was so easy because of, and I'm not knocking the shows because I used to watch them too. I don't have TV anymore. That's probably why I don't. But even in my lawyer wannabe stage, I knew never to cite them in a court brief.
But see, on the other hand too, though, like the one thing most people would probably come back with is, you might be able to watch these shows and see them as entertainment, but they do affect other people. People do watch Dr. Oz. People, and that I can agree with. That
and that's where the problem lies when it becomes when the popularity of the show becomes too much of a reality for some people.
But I'm not gonna. For me, I'm not gonna stop watching a show though, based on the fact that there might be some quackery, because or based on the fact that other people aren't or don't know how to handle it and do accept it as a real thing. So I feel like a lot of people, like people that have unfriended me over this, want me to be that type of person that gets all angry and huffy about it and boycotts it. And the thing is, I'm an adult. I do what I want. I do what feels good. And if I want to watch it, I can understand and recognize that for some people it's bad and they do bad shit. But honestly, I don't mean to sound like a dick, but
somebody like Dr. Oz is dangerous.
Yeah, him I won't watch because he's a fucking
the pompous.
Yeah. I do have my limits. I do have my there's certain
and there are times when I've put Dr. Phil on and I get 5 minutes in and the guest is just so obnoxious and the stupid crap that he's had on before. Like I'm getting tired. Well, actually, here's something we can. Did you saw Jason that he's been accused of doping addicts on the show?
I saw that and I don't. Yeah. There was some article, but until it comes out, I mean, if that's the case, if he was really doping people, I'm obviously not going to support the guy anymore. I don't support that. Obviously, there's no consent involved. Blah blah blah. But I did read some of the article, and I don't remember feeling or walking away feeling like it was a clear cut. Yeah, he was literally. Yeah. It almost came across as like, well, this like somebody was like needed some drugs because they were like.
Well, the one
it was something weird. I didn't pay attention.
That I've seen, there was a reality actor that he'd had on a couple of times who has a really bad alcohol problem. And he brought him on the show. I didn't actually watch that episode because I grew up with an alcoholic father. I seen that shit up close. Watch it, but I had seen snippets of it here and there, and they basically carried the guy onto stage because he was so drunk.
And
walk, and then I've seen clips of the same guy recently where he's saying that while no one said, "Hey, we need you to be drunk for the show," there was alcohol present in the green room and in the areas where they knew he was going to be.
See, I could see them being guilty of not being what's that word? Thorough with their. I can see them being guilty of that, and maybe there is some, maybe they did break the law and being neglectful of that. But I can't see them. I mean, I don't know, unless there's some evidence to back up the fact that they actually put that there on purpose to get him drunk. The worst I could see it was just neglect, and maybe they could get in trouble for that. But
the other part that I saw, because I know what it was. I watched a Young Turks spot on it, and so they showed a clip of when the guy came on the show, and Dr. Phil's going, "You're the closest person to death I've ever had on the show." And Chank was like, "Well, why the hell didn't you take him to a doctor, asshole?" kind of thing.
Yeah. And I'm not going to argue with that. I can't argue against that. I mean, man. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to say whether it was an intentional thing or whether it was just neglect.
Well, even if it wasn't intentional, like Tank said, if he was that bad and presented that bad, from a medical standpoint, Dr. Phil, even though he's not a medical doctor, ignored it and went on with the show. So, like you said, there's a.
But that's the thing. Does that
aspect?
But that's the thing. Does that make him a bad person, or does that just make him a person that just should have thought better, and maybe if he needs to get punished for it, he should get punished for it? But, and again, I'm not defending the guy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a Dr. Phil lover. I'm just saying, in this specific case, is this worthy of him being like?
Yeah, it's hard to say.
We also have to take into consideration too is, we don't have all the.
Well, and the thing is, even if what the guy says happened, how do we know that it wasn't like some producers who were acting on their own accord to try to know better?
Yeah.
We don't know that. So.
Well, and that comes up with any type of accusations or allegations of wrongdoing. It's like, I got in an argument the other day about it. It's like, well, we don't know the whole story. And this goes back to the initial story we were talking about with the Hajib. I mean, Deb published it, posted the story on good faith, taking it as true.
And the thing is, when I did that, every Canadian news outlet was like, there had already been live news coverage of it by this point, right? So the police had spoken, and this is what pissed me off about it, I think, the most, was that the Toronto Police Services allowed someone from, because I guess the original news conference was originated from the school and the family and not the police, but there was a police spokesman there who she spoke to the crowd and gave a statement, an official statement from the Toronto Police Services on what had happened. So to me, if you're coming on TV and you're saying, yes, this is the incident that happened, here's what the girl said, here's what we're doing, blah, 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 that says to me that you've at least done enough that you're satisfied that this is something that needs to be investigated. Like that you believe.
You don't hold press conferences on stuff that you think might be bullshit.
Exactly. So to me, that was a bad call on their part, because if the school wants to, and I was kind of angry that they put this girl on TV in the first place. I'm like, if you're telling me that she's just been victimized by a scissor wielding assailant, why the fuck would you put that girl on national television and encourage her to talk about it?
And so the weirdos could come after her, like that's also dangerous. Like even if it ended up being true, like that's dangerous to do because then, so they might retaliate against her.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I had a problem with that from the get-go, that they even put her on TV, but that the police services came out and gave it legitimacy by speaking as if it were an absolute fact. So that's my beef on that one. But
yeah.
Oh well. But Jason has graciously dropped everything to come and join us. I heard Rachel in the background there, and he's kind of got to go. So.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Getting cold.
Oh, dinner.
I didn't know they made dinner. So.
Oh, that's okay. That's all right. So, thank you so much, Jason. We really
it was fun.
If you got any projects on the go you want to plug before you go have dinner?
Yeah, I'm working on a new album, and I wrote like 60 songs, but then I cut it down to like 15, and they're mostly acoustic songs, so that'll be out soon. But besides that, I just have a loststateofmind.com and a loststateofmind.bandcamp.com. That's all my music, and it's all free. If you download it, just type in. If it asks you to pay, just type in $0.00, and except for one album that you have to pay for, it's all free. But
yeah. And Jason does awesome music. I like Jason's music.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. So if you need to head on out, but I know I'm like doing this on air, but have you checked out my new show yet? Because
is it the last the full Quran?
Yeah, it's out there.
Full Quran. I can't say it. Full Quranic.
Yes.
So what do you guys? You just read it, or do you explore it, or?
I'm just reading it and commenting.
Nice. I'll have to check it out. I listened to another show that did it, and I kind of just got sidetracked, or I don't know what happened, but I'll definitely check it out. I need to get back into podcasting again. So, is it just YouTube, or is it podcast, or?
It's on the website, Google Play, Stitcher. I'm still waiting for approval on iTunes yet, but yeah.
I have a Stitcher. That's what I use for my podcast, because I do an audio drama podcast called Know the Truth. It's spelled all funky. And, yeah.
Quite familiar with that one.
Yep.
It might even be in there somewhere.
You may be in there somewhere. Yes, ma'am.
Something about militant Mormons.
Yeah, I'm meaning to because I need to start a new season, because the last place Baxter and Pastor Jay ended up was in the Isle of Shoals in New Hampshire, and so now the new season, I was going to do it, but then I got caught up writing music, and that's just been my thing. And the new season is supposed to be on the islands, and a new island was supposed to prop up out of nowhere. There was going to be a woman in charge of the evolution cult on this island. And I asked Rachel, "You want to do the vocal work?" And she says, "No, fuck you." And I said, "All right." So I found a guy that has the deepest voice that I know, and he's going to do her vocals. So Rachel will have his vocals, but I just haven't. I've kind of written a script for it, but I just have so much music to write. I have all those songs, and I'm hoping I can get that third season done before I die. That's my goal before I die.
There you go. Well, that's the bonus of being an artist. You can just kind of go with the flow.
No way. That's the curse, because then you have too much shit to do, and then you just kind of Because the thing is, it's like when you're not that creative, it's fine because you can focus on one project. But when you sit down one day and you spend about 36 hours writing guitar solos and writing lyrics and doing all this stuff, and then you realize I'm the most creative person on the planet. Well, until you're not high, then you kind of realize a lot of that was gross anyway. But I'm just saying, like, it's a curse, because then you want to do it all, and then you get mad at yourself because then you rush. And then you it's a mess. It's a mess. I'm a mess.
You should come up to visit Canada this year, because they're going to legalize weed this summer.
Can I stay?
Hey, yeah, if you go through the paperwork, man.
I guess I'm not too worried about it, because I'm pretty much an all day kind of person when it comes to tobacco, and and we're never short. So it's just the fact that it's not legal.
Yeah.
Leave that part out. No, I'm just kidding. Okay.
Yeah, well, you can always move to like Colorado or wherever.
Well, one of these days people are gonna wake up. But the problem is, and I've said this before, our government doesn't want a bunch of people fighting wars for us that are high, because people that are high don't want to fight. That's why you don't see me arguing with people on the internet anymore, because I'm too big for that shit. But the government does want people drunk as fuck, because drunk as fuck people like to kill people. And so that's why there's such a fucking fight right now. That's the conspiracy. I'm sticking to that. Government wants us to drink.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, you take care and give Rachel our best, and
all right.
Enjoy your dinner.
All right. Peace out.
And I think we'll wrap it up, ladies, because we weren't sure whether we were going to get on the air in the first place, but that was fun.
Yeah, it's all fun when Jason comes by.
Oh, for sure. But so Beth, where do we find your stuff?
Easiest way to find me is on Twitter, Dune998. That connects to Facebook, and it also connects to my blog. And I've been a little bit more active on Twitter, so you'll find some interesting stuff. And I just posted another 30 diddling priest stories. It's like never ends.
Absolutely.
Never ends, but that connects to the blog, and my Facebook is Beth A. Hambridge. My YouTube is Beth A. Hambridge. I am working on a project, but it's going to be a while. So, that's the easiest way to find me.
Hey, Morgan,
Right.
where do we find you?
You can catch me on the Bi Skeptical podcast of Trav Mamone about every 2 weeks, and it's on iTunes, Spreaker, and Stitcher. You can also find me on Twitter at MoString. That's MoString, and you can also find me on Facebook, Morgan L. Stringer.
Awesome. And
where do we find you?
On Holy Crap, the vlogcast, which is Sunday mornings at 12:05 a.m. Although I've been bad, I haven't been on in the last 2 weeks, but I will be this week, so it's all good. And that's hosted by Shujin Trivel and our motley crew of international panelists. And then you can also find me on, like as I mentioned, Full Quranic. That's at www.fullquranic.com. And also on Google Play and Stitcher, where I read the Quran, so you don't have to. Excuse me. And I just published episode 7 a few days ago. I'm going to aim to publish new episodes usually on Fridays, so you can look for that as well. And I loved, just to give you a little tidbit, the end of the show, because we're reading the Quran in different chronological order than what most people get it. Allah tells us that he gave the Quran the way it was supposed to be given the first time. So what's up with all you other folks that have it in longest chapter to shortest? Because Allah didn't write it that way according to him. So anyway, and all we've had so far is threats, and more threats. So anybody who tells you that they quote the verse, there's no compulsion in religion. Yeah, bullshit. I'm 42 verses or chapters in so far, and it's just nothing but bad shit's gonna happen to you if you don't follow Allah. That's it. That's all it's been. So let's see if we get something else out of Allah this coming week. So there's that. And that's at, as I say, www.fullquranic.com. You can find us there. And our next show for Beyond the Trailer Park, and this is really important, we are going to be having the show on Sunday night because our guest is not available on Mondays. So that's Joe Magestro of the New Milwaukee Humanists. And we're going to talk about, they have a new conference that they're promoting, going to be less of a shit show than the other one. So we're excited to hear all about that. But that, again, is on Sunday night. Now, it's the same time, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, but it is on Sunday. Bonus for people who listen the next day, it's going to be available Monday instead of Tuesday. So there you go. But yeah, no live show on Monday. It will be on Sunday. So do watch out for that. So that is next week. And until then, we will leave you with the Human Creed for Mankind, and we'll see you Sunday. Remember that.
I know the truth and power of reason and of rational thinking, and I will use them to my advantage. I know the truth and power of educating myself and of expanding my intellectual boundaries, and I will educate myself. I know the truth and power of vanquishing ignorance, and I will do so whenever the opportunity presents itself. I know the truth and power of morality without supervision, and of true and accurate righteousness. I know the truth and power of obliterating tyranny, be it intellectual, emotional, or philosophical, and will work toward that goal whenever and however possible. I know the truth and power of human ingenuity. I know the truth and power of human compassion, and I will be mindful of the welfare of others. I know the truth and power of equality and fairness for all living things. I know the truth and power of the importance of our families, our friends, and our fellow men and women. I know the truth and power of human stewardship of our lands, our waters, and our skies, and I will try to act to preserve our environment. I know the truth and power of the sciences of mathematics, of physics, and of chemistry, and of the important role of these disciplines in understanding the workings of this cosmos. I know the truth and power of the rejection of all notions or beliefs that reside in the supernatural or the superstitious, and of those notions or beliefs that we are not supposed to be able to explain. And I know that these rejections are necessary for humankind's survival. I am a human being with a free mind, liberated from irrational influence and from unreasonable dogma.